The locks had already been changed when I got there. I stood on my own front porch, the one I'd painted sky blue 2 summers ago, and my key would turn. 3 years in this house, and in less than a week, I'd become a stranger to my own door. My hands shook as I knocked. Not from fear. From the kind of anger that lives so deep you can't even name it yet. Gareth opened up, looking annoyed. Like I was a solicitor interrupting his Saturday.
Nora.
What are you doing here? What was I doing here? At the house I helped buy? The house where my grandmother's inheritance paid 60% of the down payment? I live here, I said quietly. You left, he shot back. You made that choice. Behind him, I heard her voice.
Mira.
His pregnant sister. The woman who'd smiled at me 5 days ago and said, "It'd be great if you're gone by the weekend." She appeared in the hallway, one hand resting on her belly like it was a trophy.
Oh.
You're back. I looked past them both into the living room, my couch, my coffee table, the throw pillows I'd sewn by hand. Everything exactly where I'd left it, except now it felt like a museum of my own life. I need to grab some things, I said. Gareth crossed his arms. We're settling in right now. Maybe come back next week? Next week. In my own house. That's when I knew. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't about helping family. This was a takeover. Sure, I said, forcing a smile. Next week. I turned and walked back to my car, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might crack a rib. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Because here's what Gareth didn't know. What Mira didn't know. What nobody in that house could have possibly guessed. I wasn't coming back next week to beg. I was coming back to take everything. See, 5 days ago, when Gareth told me to move into the guest room because his sister needed the master bedroom, I didn't just pack my clothes. I packed something else too. A manila folder. The one my Aunt Elsie made me keep in my nightstand. Always know what you own, she used to say. Especially when you love someone. I'd called her the night I left. Aunt Elsie, the family skeptic. The one who asked to see the deed before our wedding. The one everyone called paranoid. She wasn't paranoid. She was prepared. And now, sitting in her kitchen with that folder spread open between us, I finally understood why. You see this? Elsie tapped the 3rd page with one manicured nail. Primary owner. That's you. He co-signed. He has rights, sure. But you own 60% of this property outright. I stared at the paper. My name. Bold print. Legal and binding. He can't just kick you out, Elsie continued. And he definitely can't change the locks without your permission. That's illegal. Something cold and clear settled in my chest. Not revenge. Not yet. Just clarity. What do I do? I whispered. Elsie smiled. The kind of smile that runs in our family. The quiet kind. The dangerous kind. You remind him who holds the keys. That was 3 days ago. Now, driving away from the house, my house made a call. Not to beg. Not to scream or beg or cry. I called a lawyer. His name was Martin Cross, an old friend of Elsie's who specialized in property disputes. He listened to my story without interrupting. Then he said 5 words that changed everything. Do you want it back? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Then we move fast, Martin said. And we move quiet. By Wednesday, the paperwork was filed. Eviction notice. Trespassing complaint. Documented proof of illegal lock changes. Every single detail, typed and notarized and ready.
I didn't tell Gareth. Didn't warn Mira.
Didn't give them a chance to spin the story or play victim. I just waited. On Thursday afternoon, Gareth finally texted me. We should talk. Can you come by tomorrow? I almost laughed. He wanted to talk.
Now.
After a week of silence. After changing my locks and handing my bedroom over like it was his to give. Sure, I typed back. What time? 2 p.m.?
Perfect.
I showed up at 1:45. Not alone. Martin was with me. And so was Officer Daniels from the County Sheriff's Department. When Gareth opened the door and saw them, his face went white. What's going on? He stammered. I handed him the papers. You're being evicted. You and Mira. You have 48 hours to vacate my property. His mouth opened.
Closed.
Opened again. Your property? Check page 3 of the deed, I said calmly. The one you never read. Mira appeared behind him, her face flushed. This is insane. You can't just. I already did, I said. And that's when her smile finally vanished. What happens when the people who tried to erase you realize they never owned you in the first place? Myra's hand flew to her mouth like she'd been slapped. You're bluffing, she said, but her voice cracked on the last word. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen.
The deed.
The bank documents. The legal filing from Tuesday morning. All of it, time-stamped and verified. Does this look like a bluff? Gareth grabbed the papers from my hand, his eyes scanning frantically. I watched his face change as he read. Confusion first. Then disbelief. Then something that looked almost like fear. Nora, wait. Just hold on. We can figure this out. Figure what out? I asked. You told me to leave. I left. Now you're leaving too. Mira stepped forward, her belly brushing against the doorframe. I'm 5 months pregnant. You can't throw a pregnant woman out on the street. Officer Daniels cleared his throat. Ma'am, you have 48 hours. That's more than fair under the circumstances. Under what circumstances? Myra's voice rose. She abandoned the property. Actually, Martin said, adjusting his glasses, changing the locks without the primary owner's consent constitutes illegal lockout. Mrs. Delane has every right to reclaim her property, and you have every obligation to leave. The word Mrs. hung in the air like smoke. Gareth turned to me, his face desperate now. Nora, please. Don't do this. We can talk. We can work something out. Like how you worked out giving away my bedroom? I asked. Or how you worked out changing my locks? He flinched. 48 hours, I repeated. Starting now. I turned and walked back to my car. My legs felt like water, but I didn't let them see it. Not until I was inside with the door closed and the engine running. Then I sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, and let out a breath I'd been holding for a week. Martin knocked on my window. I rolled it down. You did good, he said quietly. That took guts. I nodded, not trusting my voice. They'll try to negotiate, he continued. They always do. Don't engage unless I'm present. Understand? Understood. He patted the roof of my car twice and stepped back. As I drove away, I checked my rearview mirror. Gareth was still standing on the porch, papers dangling from his hand. Mira was shouting something at him, her arms waving. I didn't feel victorious.
Not yet.
I just felt tired. But somewhere underneath the exhaustion, something else was growing. Something quiet and sharp. Control. That night, Aunt Elsie made tea, and we sat on her back porch watching fireflies. She didn't ask how it went. She already knew. Your mother called, she said after a while. I groaned. What did she say? That Gareth's mother called her. Crying. Saying you've lost your mind. Of course she did. Elsie sipped her tea. I told her to mind her business. I almost smiled. Almost. They're going to make me the villain in this story, aren't they? Probably, Elsie said. But villains get to keep their houses. My phone buzzed. A text from Gareth's mother. Please call me.
We need to talk about this.
I showed Elsie. She snorted. Don't, she said simply. I wasn't planning to, but the text kept coming. Gareth's mother. Then his father. Then his brother. A whole family mobilizing to protect their own. None of them asked if I was okay. None of them wondered why I'd left in the first place. They just wanted me to stop being inconvenient. By midnight, I'd gotten 14 messages. I blocked them all. Except one. At 1:47 a.m., Gareth texted. I'm sorry. I should have listened. Can we please talk? Just the two of us? I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me, the part that had loved him for 6 years, wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe that maybe, somewhere under all the entitlement and betrayal, there was still the man I'd married. But then I remembered the way he'd looked at me when he said, "Take the guest room." Like I was furniture. Replaceable. Forgettable. I turned off my phone and went to sleep. The next morning, Friday, I woke up to 17 missed calls. All from Gareth. I made coffee, ate breakfast, and waited until 9 a.m. to call Martin. "They're panicking," I told him. "Good," he said. "Panic makes people sloppy. What happens if they don't leave by Sunday?" Then on Monday, the sheriff escorts them out. Forcibly, if necessary. Something cold settled in my stomach. It won't come to that, will it? Martin paused. Honestly, I don't know. People do strange things when they're cornered. I thanked him and hung up. By noon, a new text came through. This time from Mira. "We need more time. I can't move in my condition. Please be reasonable." Reasonable. That word again. I typed back slowly. "You had a week to be reasonable. You told me to be gone by the weekend. I'm just returning the favor." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared.
Appeared again.
Then nothing. Saturday arrived with rain. The kind that makes everything gray and heavy. I spent the day packing up Aunt Elsie's guest room, preparing to move back into my own house. My house. The words still felt strange. At 4 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello." Nora. It was Trent, Myra's husband. His voice was tight, strained. "We need to talk." "I'm listening." "Myra's in the hospital." My heart stopped.
What?
"She started having contractions this morning. They think it's stress-induced. She's stable now, but..." His voice broke.
Please.
"Just give us a few more days. That's all I'm asking." And suddenly, I wasn't sure anymore if justice felt like winning, or just like more loss. Have you ever won a fight and wondered if the cost was too high? I sat in Aunt Elsie's kitchen with the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to Trent breathe on the other end. "How far along is she?" I asked finally. 22 weeks. "The doctors say if she goes into early labor now." He stopped. Swallowed hard. "They say it's too early." My chest tightened. I thought about Myra's hand on her belly. The way she'd looked so smug, so untouchable. Now she was in a hospital bed, fighting to keep her baby safe. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I really am. But, Trent, this isn't about her pregnancy. This is about what they did to me." "I know." His voice cracked. "I know what they did. And it was wrong. But please, Nora." She's scared. And so am I. I closed my eyes. "Where's Gareth?" "At the hospital. He's been here since this morning." Of course he was. Playing the devoted brother while I played the heartless villain. "I'll call my lawyer," I said. "But I'm not making any promises." "Thank you. That's all I'm asking." I hung up and immediately dialed Martin. He answered on the first ring. I heard. "How did you?" "Gareth's lawyer called me an hour ago. They're requesting an extension based on medical hardship." I leaned against the counter. "Can they do that?" "Technically, yes. A judge might grant a temporary stay if there's documented medical evidence." "But Nora, listen to me carefully. This could be a strategy. They know you have a conscience. They're using it." "So what do I do?" Martin was quiet for a moment. "That's not a legal question. That's a moral one. And only you can answer it." I thanked him and hung up. Aunt Elsie appeared in the doorway, 2 mugs of tea in her hands. She set one in front of me, without a word. "You heard?" I asked. "Heard enough." She sat down across from me. "You're thinking about backing down." It wasn't a question. "She's in the hospital, Elsie. If something happens to that baby..." "Then it's because of stress she created," Elsie interrupted. "Not you. You didn't kick yourself out of your own house. You didn't change your own locks. They did that." "But if I push this now..." "If you back down now," Elsie said firmly, "they'll know exactly how to control you. Every time they need something, every time they want their way, they'll find a crisis. A pregnancy, a job loss, a sick relative. There will always be a reason why you should wait, why you should sacrifice, why you should disappear." Her words hit like cold water. So, you think I should just ignore this? I think you should do what's best for you, not what makes them comfortable. I stared into my tea, watching the steam curl upward. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Myra's face, the smugness, the cruelty, but also the fear in Trent's voice when he said, "It's too early." At 3 a.m., I made a decision. I texted Trent, "I'll give you 1 week. Not for her,
For the baby.
but after that, the eviction stands. No extensions. No negotiations." He responded immediately, "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." But I did know. It meant I was still the one bending, still the one making space, still the one being reasonable. And I hated it. Sunday morning, I drove to the house. My house. I needed to see it, to remind myself why this mattered. The grass needed mowing. The blue porch swing was covered in pollen, but it was still standing, still mine. I sat on the front steps and let myself cry. Not for Gareth, not for Mira, just for the version of myself who'd believed love meant never having to fight for your own space. That girl was gone now, and I wasn't sure if I missed her or was relieved she'd left. My phone buzzed. A text from Gareth. "Can we talk? Face to face? Please." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. "Tuesday, 10 a.m. at the house. Martin will be there. Just us. No lawyers. Then no meeting. 3 dots. Then nothing. Finally, after 5 minutes, fine. Tuesday at 10. I pocketed my phone and stood up. The sun was starting to break through the clouds, turning everything gold. Maybe this wasn't about winning. Maybe it was just about remembering that I deserved to take up space.
Even in my own life.
Tuesday came faster than I wanted. I arrived at the house at 9:45. Martin was already there, leaning against his car. "You ready?" he asked.
No.
"But let's do it anyway." Gareth pulled up exactly at 10. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes. Wrinkled shirt. Hair uncombed. Good, I thought. Then hated myself for thinking it. He walked up slowly, hands in his pockets. Hey. Hey. Martin stepped forward. "Let's keep this brief. You wanted to talk. Talk." Gareth glanced at him, then back at me. "Nora, I messed up. I know that now. I should have never." He stopped.
Took a breath.
"I should have put you first. I didn't. And I'm sorry." The words sounded rehearsed.
Hollow.
"Are you sorry?" I asked quietly. "Or are you just scared of losing the house?" He flinched. "Both. Can't it be both?" "I don't know."
Can it?
Silence stretched between us like a chasm. "I love you," he said finally. "I know I didn't show it, but I do." And that's when I realized something that broke me and freed me at the same time. I didn't believe him anymore. What do you do when sorry isn't enough to rebuild what's been destroyed? I looked at Gareth standing there on the porch of the house we'd bought together, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not love, not even hatred. Just emptiness where something used to live. "When did you stop seeing me?" I asked. He blinked. "What? When exactly did I stop being your wife and start being just another person in your way?" "Nora, that's not." "Was it when Mira called? When she said she needed a place? Or was it before that?" My voice stayed calm. Too calm. "Was it the night I burned dinner and you ate at your mom's instead? Or the morning I asked you to help paint the fence and you said you were too tired?" "You're being unfair." Unfair. The word came out sharp. "You gave away our bedroom like it was a coat you didn't wear anymore. You changed the locks. You told me to leave. And I'm being unfair?" Martin touched my arm gently. "Nora." I took a breath. Stepped back. Gareth ran a hand through his hair. "I thought you'd understand. Family's important to me. You know that." "And I'm not family?" "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean, Gareth? Explain it to me. Because I'm trying really hard to understand how the woman you married ranks below the sister who's treated me like garbage since day one." He looked at the ground. "Myra's pregnant. She needed help. So did I. Every single day I spent in that house trying to make you happy. Trying to be enough. And the one time I needed you to choose me, you couldn't do it. It wasn't about choosing. Yes, it was, I interrupted. And you chose. You just didn't choose me. The silence that followed felt like standing in a graveyard. Martin cleared his throat. Mr. Delane, do you have any legal response to the eviction notice? Any formal proposal? Gareth looked at him like he'd forgotten he was there. I want to buy out Nora's share of the house. With what money? I asked. I can get a loan. Or my parents can help. Your parents? I almost laughed. The same parents who called me hysterical when I told them their son kicked me out? Those parents. They didn't understand the situation. No, Gareth. You didn't understand the situation. I owned this house before you did. My grandmother's money bought this porch, this store, this life we built. And you threw it away like it meant nothing. I'll pay you back. I don't want your money. My voice dropped. I want my home. And I want you out of it. His face crumpled. Please, don't do this. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can. I gave you 1 week because your sister's in the hospital, I said quietly. That week ends Saturday. After that, you leave. End of discussion. Nora. We're done here. I turned to Martin. Let's go. As I walked to my car, Gareth called after me. I do love you. I know I hurt you, but I love you. I stopped. Turned around. Love isn't supposed to feel like disappearing, I said. And that's all I did in this marriage. Disappear a little more every day until I was small enough to fit in the guest room. I got in my car and drove away. This time, I didn't look back. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The days crawled by like wounded animals. Gareth called 17 times. I didn't answer. His mother left a voicemail calling me selfish and cruel. I deleted it. Mira was released from the hospital Thursday afternoon. Trent texted me to let me know she was stable. I replied with a thumbs up and nothing else. Friday night, Aunt Elsie and I packed boxes. My things. The life I was about to reclaim. How do you feel? She asked, wrapping my grandmother's tea set in newspaper. Like I'm about to walk back into a haunted house. It's only haunted if you let the ghosts stay. I thought about that. About Gareth's voice in every room. Myra's laugh in the hallway. The echo of a life I'd thought was mine. What if I can't get rid of them? I asked quietly. Elsie looked up. Then you paint over them. New walls. New memories. New life. She made it sound so simple. Saturday morning arrived cold and gray.
The deadline.
I showed up at 8 a.m. with Martin, a moving truck, and a locksmith. Gareth's car was already gone. So was Myra's. The house stood empty, quiet, waiting. Martin handed me a new set of keys. It's yours again. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Myra's perfume. Gareth's cologne. Stale air and abandonment. They'd left things. A coffee mug in the sink. Myra's maternity magazine on the counter. Gareth's jacket hanging by the door like he'd be back any minute. I walked through each room slowly. The guest room where I'd been exiled. The master bedroom where Mira had nested. The bathroom. The kitchen. The living room with my blue couch. Everything was here. And nothing was the same. In the bedroom, I found a note on the pillow. Gareth's handwriting. I'm sorry I couldn't be who you needed. I hope someday you'll forgive me. The house was always more yours than mine, anyway. Take care of it. Take care of yourself.
I'm sorry.
I read it twice, then folded it and put it in my pocket. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because some endings need evidence. I spent the rest of the day cleaning, scrubbing away fingerprints and memories, erasing the week that had tried to erase me. By evening, the house smelled like lemon cleaner and possibility. I sat on the blue porch swing and watched the sun set, alone, finally completely alone. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. But then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. Nora Delane? A woman's voice. Official. Cold. Yes. This is County Hospital. We have Gareth Delane here. He's been in an accident. My heart stopped. He's asking for you. When the person who broke you needs you most, what do? The hospital was 20 minutes away, but felt like 20 hours. I drove with my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. My mind kept replaying the nurse's words. Accident. Asking for you. I told myself I didn't owe him anything. Not after everything. Not after the way he'd looked at me, like I was nothing. But my foot stayed on the gas anyway. The emergency room smelled like antiseptic and fear. I gave Gareth's name at the desk. The nurse looked at me with something like pity. Are you family? I'm his wife. The words tasted strange now, like claiming a title I'd already given up. She led me down a hallway. He's stable. Broken arm, concussion, some bruising. Could have been much worse. What happened? Car accident. He swerved to avoid a deer and hit a tree. He's lucky he was wearing his seatbelt. We stopped outside a room. Through the small window, I could see him.
Gareth.
Bandaged and small in the hospital bed. I'll give you some privacy, the nurse said. I stood there for a long moment, hand on the door. Part of me wanted to turn around, to leave him here the way he'd left me in that house. But I didn't. I pushed open the door. Gareth's eyes were closed. His left arm was in a cast. A bandage wrapped around his head. He looked nothing like the man who'd stood on my porch and told me to take the guest room. He looked broken. Gareth, I said quietly. His eyes opened, focused on me, and something in his expression crumbled. Nora. His voice was rough. You came. The hospital called. I didn't think you would. A tear slid down his cheek. After everything. I didn't think you'd come. I pulled a chair close to the bed, but didn't sit. What happened? I was driving to my parents' place. Wasn't paying attention. There was a deer, and he stopped. Took a shaky breath. I keep replaying it. The moment I swerved. The tree coming at me. And all I could think was that if I died right then, the last thing I'd said to you was a lie. What lie? That I loved you. He looked at me with red, swollen eyes. I do love you, Nora. I just loved being comfortable more. Loved not having to choose. Loved keeping everyone happy except the one person who actually mattered. I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of understanding. Why did you call me here? I asked. Because I need to say this while I still can. While you're still here. He shifted in the bed, wincing. I was a coward. I let Mira walk all over you, because standing up to her meant dealing with my family's drama. I changed the locks because it was easier than facing what I'd done. And I told you to leave because I couldn't stand seeing the hurt in your eyes every time you looked at me. So you made me disappear instead. Yes. He nodded. And I will regret that for the rest of my life. The machines beeped steadily in the silence that followed. I'm not coming back, I said finally. If that's why you called me here. If you think this changes anything. I know. He closed his eyes. I know you're not. And you shouldn't. I just needed you to hear me say it. That I was wrong. That you deserved better. That you still do. I sat down then. Not close. But I sat. The divorce papers will be ready next week, I said quietly. I won't fight it. Good. We sat there for a while. Not talking. Just existing in the same space one last time. Does Mira know? I asked eventually. About the accident?
Yeah.
And Trent came by earlier.
She cried.
Said she was sorry for everything. Did you believe her?
He thought about it.
I think she's sorry she got caught. But actually sorry? I don't know. I almost smiled. Almost. A nurse knocked and entered. Mr. Delane needs to rest. You can come back during visiting hours tomorrow. I stood up. I won't be back. Gareth nodded. I know. I walked to the door.
Stopped.
Turned around. I hope you heal, I said. Not just your arm. All of it. You too, he whispered. And then I left. The parking lot was dark and cold. I sat in my car for a long time just breathing. My phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Elsie. Everything okay? Yeah, I typed back. Everything's over. Finally. I drove home to my house, my porch, my life, and parked in the driveway. The moon was bright enough to see the blue swings swaying gently in the wind. Inside, I poured a glass of wine and sat on my couch. My couch. In my living room. And I let myself feel everything. The anger, the grief, the relief, the freedom. All of it, washing over me like rain. I didn't know what came next. Didn't know if I'd sell the house or keep it. Didn't know if I'd date again or stay alone for a while. But I knew one thing for certain. I'd never again make myself small enough to fit someone else's idea of who I should be. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. But then, at midnight, my phone rang again. This time it was Mira. Sometimes the story doesn't end when you think it does. What could she possibly want now? I stared at Myra's name on my screen, thumb hovering over the decline button. Every logical part of my brain screamed not to answer. But curiosity, or maybe just exhaustion, made me swipe right. What do you want, Mira? Silence. Then a shaky breath. I need to apologize. I almost hung up right there. It's midnight. I know. I couldn't sleep. Haven't slept since. Her voice broke. Can I come over? Please. Just for a few minutes. Absolutely not. Nora, please. I need to say this to your face. I owe you that much. You don't owe me anything except distance. 20 minutes. That's all I'm asking. If you still hate me after, I'll leave and never contact you again. I should have said no. Should have protected my peace. But something in her voice sounded different. Desperate in a way that wasn't manipulative. Fine, I said. 20 minutes. But Trent comes with you. Okay. Thank you. She hung up before I could change my mind. I texted Aunt Elsie. Myra's coming over. If I'm not okay in an hour, send help. She replied immediately. Are you insane? Probably. But I need to hear this. I'm coming over. Elsie. I'm already in my car. 15 minutes later, headlights swept across my living room window. 2 cars. Mira and Trent in one. Aunt Elsie in the other. I opened the door before anyone could knock. Mira stood on my porch looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. No designer dress. No smug smile. Just a tired pregnant woman in sweatpants and a jacket. Thank you for seeing me, she said quietly. I didn't invite them in. Just stepped onto the porch, arms crossed. Aunt Elsie parked and walked up, positioning herself beside me like a guard dog. Say what you need to say, I told Mira. She took a breath. I've been a terrible person to you. For years. And it wasn't because you did anything wrong. It was because Gareth loved you and I couldn't stand it. I blinked. What? My whole life, Gareth was mine. My big brother. My protector. And then he met you, and suddenly I had to share him. And I hated it. I hated you. Trent put a hand on her shoulder. She wiped at her eyes. So, I made little comments. Criticized everything you did. Made jokes at your expense. And Gareth never stopped me because he's weak when it comes to family. He always has been. That doesn't excuse what you did, Elsie said sharply. I know. Mira looked at me. When we showed up that weekend, I knew what I was doing. I knew I was pushing you out. And I liked it. I thought, finally, I could have my brother back. And then I left, I said. And then you left. And instead of feeling victorious, I just felt empty. Like I'd won a prize I didn't actually want. She pressed a hand to her belly. When I went into early labor, I kept thinking, what if something happens to this baby because of the stress I created? What if I lose everything because I couldn't just let my brother be happy? Tears were streaming down her face now. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she continued. I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know that I see what I did. And I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. I stood there, feeling the night air cold against my skin. You're right, I said finally. You don't deserve forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She nodded, accepting it. But I appreciate you saying it. I looked at Trent. You should get her home. She needs rest. Thank you, Trent said quietly, for everything, the extra week, this conversation, all of it. They turned to leave. Mira paused at the steps. The house looks good, she said without turning around. You should keep it. Then they were gone. Elsie and I stood there inquiring. You okay? She asked. I don't know, I admitted. Is it weird that I feel better?
No.
Closure is a powerful thing. We went inside. Elsie made tea while I processed everything. Do you believe her? I asked. Elsie thought about it. I believe she believes it. Whether it sticks, time will tell. My phone buzzed. A text from Martin. Divorce papers are ready. We can file Monday if you're sure. I looked around my living room. At the life I was rebuilding. I'm sure, I typed back. That night, I slept in the master bedroom for the first time since moving back. My room. My bed. My house. And when I woke up Sunday morning to sunlight streaming through the windows, I felt something I hadn't felt in months.
Hope.
The next few weeks passed in a blur of paperwork and paint samples. I changed everything about the house. New curtains. New bedding. A garden in the backyard. Gareth signed the divorce papers without contest. His lawyer sent them back within a week. I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved in with his parents. That Mira and Trent had found their own place. That everyone was just trying to move forward. Good, I thought. Let them. One Saturday morning, I was painting the kitchen cabinets when someone knocked on the door. I opened it to find a woman I didn't recognize. Mid-50s, kind eyes, holding a casserole dish.
Hi, she said.
I'm Patricia. I live 3 doors down. I just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood. Well, welcome you back, I guess. I took the dish, confused. I've lived here for 3 years. I know, but you seem different now. Lighter somehow. She smiled. Anyway, if you ever need anything, I'm at 412. She left before I could respond. I stood there holding the casserole, feeling something warm spread through my chest.
Community.
Connection. Life continuing. That afternoon, I sat on my blue porch swing with a glass of lemonade and watched the world go by. A text came through. Unknown number. This is Gareth's mom. I wanted to say I'm sorry for how I treated you. You deserved better from all of us. I hope you're well. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back. Thank you. I am well.
Short.
Simple. Enough. As the sun set, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the fight, the reclaiming, and I realized something important. This wasn't a story about revenge. It was a story about remembering my own worth, about refusing to disappear, about building a life where I was the main character, not the supporting cast. And that, more than any legal victory, felt like winning. But the best part? The story was just beginning. When you take back your power, what do you build with it? 3 months later, the house didn't just feel like mine. It felt like me. I'd painted the kitchen a soft sage green, hung photos of places I wanted to visit, planted tomatoes and herbs in the backyard. The blue porch swing got a fresh coat of paint and new cushions that I'd sewn myself. Every corner held a decision I'd made alone. And every decision reminded me I could trust myself. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. Martin called to tell me it was official. How do you feel? He asked.
Free, I said.
And meant it. Work helped too. I'd thrown myself into my job at the community center, organizing events, teaching art classes to kids. Things I'd always wanted to do, but never had time for when I was busy trying to keep a marriage alive. One of my students, a quiet girl named Lily, stayed after class one day. Miss Nora, she said, holding a painting of a house with a blue door. Is it okay if things end and you're happy about it? I knelt down beside her. Why do you ask? My parents got divorced last year. My dad says my mom ruined everything. But my mom seems happier now. I don't know who to believe. I looked at this small person carrying such big questions. Sometimes people grow in different directions, I said carefully. And sometimes happy looks different than we thought it would. Your mom can be happy, and your dad can be hurt. Both things can be true.
She thought about that.
Are you divorced?
Yeah.
Pretty recently. Are you happy? I smiled. Yeah, Lily. I really am. She hugged me then, this little girl I barely knew, and whispered, Good. You should be. That night, I got a Facebook message from someone named Claire Hadley. Hi, Nora. You don't know me, but I'm Gareth's cousin. I heard about what happened. I just wanted to say I'm sorry and also, thank you. Watching you stand up for yourself gave me the courage to leave my own bad situation. I hope that's not weird to say. I just thought you should know. I read it 3 times. Then I responded, It's not weird at all. I'm proud of you. And if you ever need to talk, I'm here. She replied with a heart emoji. And I realized something powerful. My story wasn't just mine anymore. It was rippling outward, touching people I'd never meet. That's what happens when you stop hiding. When you stop making yourself small. You give other people permission to grow too. Halloween came. I decorated the porch with pumpkins and lights. Gave out candy to neighborhood kids. Patricia from 412 stopped by with her grandkids. House looks beautiful, she said. You've done wonders with it. Thanks. It finally feels like home. Good. You deserve that. Such simple words. But they landed like blessings. November brought cooler weather and an unexpected call from Trent. Hey, Nora. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. It's fine. What's up? Mira had the baby. A girl. Charlotte. 8 pounds, healthy, perfect. That's wonderful, I said. And meant it. She wanted me to tell you. Said she knows you probably don't care, but she wanted you to know anyway.
I thought about that.
About Mira in a hospital bed, holding her daughter. About new beginnings and old endings. Tell her congratulations, I said. And that I'm glad she's okay. I will. And Nora? For what it's worth, we've talked a lot about what happened. She's really trying to be better. Good. Everyone deserves a chance to grow. After we hung up, I didn't feel angry or bitter. Just neutral. Like closing a book I'd finished reading. Their story continued without me. And mine continued without them. Exactly as it should be. December arrived with the first snow. I hosted my first holiday party. Just a small gathering. Aunt Elsie, Patricia and her husband, a few friends from work, Martin and his wife. We ate too much food and laughed too loud, and it felt like exactly the kind of life I'd wanted all along. To Nora, Elsie said, raising her glass, who taught us all that coming home to yourself is the bravest journey there is. Everyone cheered, and I felt it then, the full weight of what I'd done. Not just keeping a house, but keeping myself. Later, after everyone left, I sat alone in the living room with the Christmas tree lights twinkling. My phone buzzed. A text from Gareth. Merry Christmas. I hope you're well. I stared at it for a moment, then typed, Merry Christmas. I hope you are too. No anger. No bitterness. Just 2 people who'd once meant something to each other, now meaning less. And that felt like the truest ending of all. I turned off the tree lights and headed to bed. My bed. In my room. In my house. Tomorrow I'd wake up and make coffee. Maybe paint the guest room. Maybe call my mom. All small things. All mine. And somehow, after everything, that was more than enough. But as I drifted off to sleep, I thought about Lily's question. Is it okay if things end and you're happy about it? Yes, I thought. Yes, it is. Because some endings are just beginnings in disguise. What matters most isn't how a chapter ends, but what you build in the next one. Spring came early that year, washing away the last of winter with warm rain and green shoots pushing through the soil. I was on my knees in the garden, planting sunflowers along the fence, when I heard someone clear their throat behind me. I turned. A man stood at the edge of my yard, maybe 40, wearing paint-stained jeans and a flannel shirt. Kind eyes. Nervous smile. Sorry to bother you, he said. I'm Owen. I just moved in next door. Saw you working and wanted to introduce myself. I stood, brushing dirt from my knees.
Nora.
Welcome to the neighborhood. Thanks. Your garden looks amazing. Mine's just weeds and broken dreams right now. I laughed. Give it time. Everything grows eventually. We talked for a few minutes about soil and weather and the best place to buy mulch. Easy conversation. Comfortable. Before he left, he said, "If you ever need help with anything, or if I'm being too loud with the renovations, just knock."
Same to you, I said.
I watched him walk back to his house, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time.
Possibility.
Not romance.
Not yet.
Just the quiet awareness that life continued. That new people arrived. That the world didn't stop just because mine had paused for a while. That weekend, I ran into Gareth at the grocery store. We both froze, shopping carts between us like shields.
Hi, he said.
Hi. He looked different. Thinner. Older somehow. But also calmer. How are you? He asked. Good. Really good, actually. I meant it. You. Getting there. Therapy helps. That's good. I'm glad. An awkward pause. Then he said, "The house looks great. Drove by last week. You've done a lot with it." Thanks. It's home now. He nodded. It should have always been yours. I see that now. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just smiled. Small. Polite. Take care, Gareth. You too, Nora. We went our separate ways. Down separate aisles. Living separate lives. And it didn't hurt anymore. That's how I knew I'd healed. Not because I'd forgotten, but because remembering didn't take anything from me anymore. In May, I got promoted again. More responsibility, better pay, a chance to create programming for women rebuilding their lives after hardship. You're perfect for this, my boss said. You understand what it's like to start over. I thought about how trauma could transform into purpose. Maybe that's what survival really was. Taking the worst thing that ever happened and using it to help someone else find their way through. I hired Claire, Gareth's cousin who'd messaged me months ago, as my assistant. She'd left her abusive marriage and needed a fresh start. On her first day, she stood in my office doorway looking terrified and hopeful. "I can't believe you gave me a chance," she said. "Everyone deserves one," I told her. Especially people brave enough to ask for it. She worked harder than anyone I'd ever seen, and watching her confidence grow felt like watering a garden I didn't know I'd planted. June brought a surprise invitation. Myra's baby's christening. I stared at the card for a long time. Elegant script. Formal wording. And at the bottom, handwritten. It would mean a lot if you came. No pressure.
Mira.
Aunt Elsie thought I was crazy for even considering it. "Why would you go?" she demanded over coffee. "I don't know. Closure, maybe? Or just to prove I can stand in the same room with them and not fall apart." "You have nothing to prove." Maybe not to them. But to myself? Maybe I do. I RSVP'd yes. The christening was at a small church I didn't recognize. I arrived late on purpose, slipping into the back row. Mira stood at the altar holding Charlotte, who was wrapped in white lace. Trent beside her. Gareth off to the side with his parents. They looked like a family. Complete. Healed. And I felt nothing but peace about it. After the ceremony, Mira found me in the parking lot. "You came," she said softly. "I did. Thank you." She shifted Charlotte in her arms. "Do you want to meet her?" I looked down at this tiny person, all innocence and possibility. "She's beautiful," I said. "She is." Myra's voice cracked. "Nora, I know I said it before, but I need to say it again.
I'm sorry. For everything.
You were nothing but kind to me, and I was cruel. And I have to live with that. We all have to live with our choices," I said gently. "But we don't have to let them define us forever." She nodded, tears spilling over. "I hope you're happy," she whispered. "I am. I really am. And the beautiful thing? I meant it. I left before the reception. This wasn't my family anymore. And that was okay. I drove home. To my house, my life, my hard-won peace, and found Owen outside watering his lawn.
He waved.
I waved back.
"Hey," he called.
"A few of us are having a barbecue next Saturday. You should come." "I'd like that," I said. Simple words. Simple invitation. but somehow they meant everything. Because that's what healing looked like. Not dramatic. Not perfect. Just small moments of saying yes to life again. That night, I sat on my blue porch swing and watched the fireflies dance. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Thank you for believing in me. You changed my life." I smiled and typed back, "You changed your own life." I just held the door open. The stars came out one by one. The air smelled like jasmine and summer. And I thought about the girl I'd been a year ago. The one who packed her bags and drove away from a house that didn't want her. If I could talk to her now, I'd tell her, it gets better. Not easier. Not simpler. But better. I'd tell her that leaving was the bravest thing she'd ever do. And that the life waiting on the other side was worth every painful step. I'd tell her that home isn't a place someone gives you. It's a place you build for yourself, brick by brick, choice by choice, until the foundation is so strong that no one can ever shake it again. And I'd tell her what I knew now, sitting here in the life I'd fought for. You're going to be okay. Better than okay. You're going to be free. Have you ever rebuilt yourself so completely that the person you were before feels like a stranger? August brought a heat wave and an unexpected letter. It arrived on a Tuesday, official-looking, return address from a law firm I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped.
What now?
I opened it carefully. "Dear Ms. Delane, we represent the estate of Margaret Delane. As you may know, Mrs. Delane passed away in June. According to her will, you have been named as a beneficiary." My hands started shaking. Margaret, Gareth's grandmother. The woman who'd taught me to make bread and always called me dear girl. I kept reading. "Mrs. Delane has left you her cottage in Blue Harbor, along with a sum of $50,000 to be used as you see fit. She included a personal note, which we have enclosed." I pulled out the second sheet of paper. Margaret's handwriting, shaky but clear. "Dearest Nora, if you're reading this, I'm gone." Good. I was tired anyway. I want you to have the cottage. Not because I felt sorry for you. Not because of what my foolish grandson did. But because you loved it when we visited, and I always believed it should go to someone who would appreciate it. You were the only one in that family who saw me as more than an obligation.
You sat with me. Listened to me.
Made me feel human. That's worth more than blood. The cottage is yours. Fill it with life. With art. With whatever brings you joy. And Nora, don't you dare feel guilty for taking it. You earned it by being kind when kindness was hard. Live well, dear girl. Make them all regret underestimating you. With love, Margaret." I sat on my kitchen floor and cried. Not sad tears. Not happy tears. Just release. This woman, gone now, had seen me, had valued me, had given me something no one could take away. 2 weeks later, I drove to Blue Harbor for the first time since the divorce. The cottage sat on a cliff overlooking the ocean. Small, weathered, perfect. White paint peeling. Blue shutters. A porch made for reading. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. It smelled like salt air and old books. Margaret's furniture still filled the rooms. Her teacups in the cabinet. Her paintings on the walls. And on the mantel, a photo. Margaret and me from 5 years ago. I was laughing at something she'd said. She was looking at me with such warmth. I'd forgotten that moment. But she'd kept it. I spent the weekend cleaning, airing out rooms, making lists. The cottage needed work. But it was mine. Truly, completely mine. Sunday evening, I sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the ocean gold and orange.
My phone rang.
"Aunt Elsie." "How's the cottage?" she asked. "Perfect. Needs work. But perfect." "You keeping it or selling?" I looked out at the water. "Keeping it. Maybe I'll rent out the house in town. Use this as a retreat. Or maybe I'll teach art classes here for women rebuilding their lives." "Like you did." "Like I did." We talked for a while longer. About Margaret. About legacy. About how love sometimes shows up in the most unexpected ways. After we hung up, I pulled out my laptop and started writing. Not a memoir. Not exactly. Just thoughts. About betrayal and recovery. about finding yourself after you've been lost, about building a life from scratch when everything you knew falls apart. I wrote until the stars came out, until my hands cramped, until the story poured out of me like something I'd been holding too long. By midnight, I had 20 pages. By morning, I had a title, The Guest Room. 3 months later, I'd finished the manuscript. Sent it to a literary agent Aunt Elsie knew. Didn't expect anything. But she loved it. "This is raw and real," she said on the phone. "And right now, women need this story. Give me a month. I'll get you a deal." She got me 3 offers. I signed with the publisher, who promised to donate a portion of profits to domestic violence shelters. Because this story wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to every woman who'd been told to take up less space. To every person who'd been erased in their own life. The book came out the following spring. Small printing. Modest expectations. It sold out in 2 weeks. Suddenly, I was doing interviews.
Podcasts.
Speaking at events. Women approached me with tears in their eyes, saying, "You told my story. Thank you." And I realized something profound. The worst thing that ever happened to me had become the best thing I ever created. Not because the pain was worth it. Pain is never worth it. But because I'd refused to let it be the end of my story. One evening, after a book signing, I checked my email. One message stood out. Subject: Thank you. Sender: Gareth Delane. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. Nora, I read your book. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I needed to tell you. I'm sorry. Not the hollow sorry from before, but truly, deeply sorry for the man I was. Reading your words showed me how much damage I caused. How blind I was. You deserved so much better. I hope you found it. You've built something beautiful from the wreckage I helped create. That takes courage I never had. Thank you for telling the truth. Even when it made me look terrible. Especially then. I hope you're well. I hope you're happy. You deserve every good thing. Gareth. I read it twice. Then I closed the email without responding. Not out of anger. Not out of spite. But because I didn't owe him my words anymore. His apology was his journey. Mine was already complete. That night, at the cottage, I sat on the porch with a cup of Margaret's tea, the blend she taught me to make, and watched the moon rise over the water. Owen had driven up for the weekend. We'd been dating casually for months. Nothing serious. Just easy. Comfortable. Safe. He sat beside me, quiet, content. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. Just thinking. About how strange life is. How the worst moments can crack you open just enough to let the light in. He squeezed my hand. You're pretty wise, you know that? I laughed. I'm a mess who figured some things out. Same thing. We sat there in comfortable silence, and I felt it again. That peace. That bone-deep knowing that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Not because everything was perfect, but because I'd chosen it. Built it. Fought for it. And that made all the difference. Tomorrow I'd wake up and write more.
Teach a class.
Plant more flowers. Live more life. But tonight, I just sat in the quiet and let myself feel grateful. For the cottage. For the book. For the second chance I'd given myself. And for the girl who'd packed her bags 1.5 years ago and walked away from a life that was killing her softly. She'd saved us both. When you finally become the person you were always meant to be, how does it feel? 2 years after the eviction, I stood in the cottage living room teaching a class of 8 women how to paint their stories. Not literally, metaphorically, using color and canvas to express what words couldn't hold. These women came from everywhere.
Different backgrounds.
Different traumas. But the same core wound. They'd all lost themselves somewhere along the way. Don't think, I told them. Just feel. Let the brush move. Let the colors speak. I watched them work, these beautiful broken brave women, and saw myself in every single one. The cottage had become exactly what I'd hoped. A sanctuary. A place where women could come for weekend retreats to remember who they were before the world told them who to be.
We called it the Blue Door Project.
named after my porch swing back home. It was small, barely breaking even, but it was mine. After class, a woman named Sarah approached me. Mid-30s, quiet, nervous. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Of course."
I almost didn't come this weekend.
My ex found out I was here and sent me 100 texts saying I was wasting money, being dramatic, embarrassing myself.
She paused.
But I came anyway. And this morning, painting that canvas, I felt like myself for the first time in years.
So thank you.
For not giving up. For building this place. For showing us it's possible. I hugged her. This stranger, who was also somehow family. "You did the hard part," I told her. "You showed up. That's everything." After everyone left, I walked down to the beach. The cottage sat on a cliff, and stone steps led to the sand below. The ocean was calm today, almost glassy. I pulled out my phone and called Anna. "How'd the retreat go?" she asked. "Perfect. Messy and real and perfect." "Good. That's the only kind word happening." We talked about logistics, about the waiting list that was growing, about maybe expanding something. "You've built something special," Elsie said. "Your grandmother would be proud." "Which one?" I laughed. "Both of them. All of them. Every woman in our family who ever had to fight to matter." After we hung up, I sat on the sand and watched the waves. My book had done well enough for a second printing. A small publisher wanted to talk about a follow-up. The cottage was booked through next spring. And the house in town, my house, had a renter. A young teacher named Maya, who sent me pictures of the garden she was planting. Life was full. Different than I'd planned. Better, maybe. My phone buzzed. A text from Owen. "Missing you. Drive safe tomorrow. Made reservations at that place you like." I smiled. We'd been together over a year now.
Slow.
Steady. Built on honesty instead of need. He knew my whole story. The marriage. The eviction. The rebuilding.
And he loved me anyway.
Not despite my past. Just alongside it. That felt revolutionary. As the sun started to set, I thought about Gareth. Wondered if he was happy.
Hoped he was.
I'd heard through mutual friends that he'd gotten serious with someone new. That they were talking about marriage. Good, I thought. Everyone deserves a second chance at doing it right. Even him. I thought about Mira too. About Charlotte growing up. About Trent and all the ways families break and rebuild. They were living their lives. I was living mine. And the fact that those lives didn't intersect anymore felt like grace. Because forgiveness doesn't mean reunion. Sometimes it just means releasing the need for the story to be different than it was. I stood up, brushed sand from my jeans, and climbed back up to the cottage. Inside, I made tea, Margaret's blend, and sat at the small desk where I did my writing. A blank page stared back at me. I picked up my pen and wrote. Chapter 1. The day I stopped apologizing for taking up space. Not for a book. Not for anyone else. Just for me. To remember. To honor the journey. To mark how far I'd come. Because 2 years ago, I'd stood on a porch with a suitcase and a broken heart and no idea what came next. And now I stood in a cottage I owned, teaching women to reclaim themselves, writing stories that mattered, loving someone who saw me clearly. I'd lost a marriage. A family. A version of myself I'd thought was permanent. But I'd gained something infinitely more valuable. Myself.
Whole.
Unbroken.
Free.
And that was worth everything I'd left behind. The wind picked up outside, rattling the shutters. I smiled and kept writing. Because some stories don't end with happily ever after. They end with something better. They end with, I survived. I rebuilt. I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future stories. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. Your words inspire others who might be facing similar struggles. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we're stronger than we think. What story would you like to hear next? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, remember, you deserve to take up space. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be free. See you in the next one.